my first question was, how did you come to live on Mountain Drive?
Oh.
That's a big one.
Well, let's see. We came there in 1951 from the East Coast. We had the previous, 2 years previous to that, we'd spent a year in Denmark. I was going to be a writer. And I was brought up in the East. My family was in the East. And I wasn't making very good progress with being a writer. And Susie's family, my wife's family, Susie was born in Santa Barbara, and it was her place. Bobby he bought this land up in Mountain Drive, 50 acres, I think. He bought it very reasonably in 1943, I think, or around there. And we decided we would go out there, and it would be a freer place for me to write.
Right.
Anyway, it ended up with me not being very successful as a writer, but I did work with Bobby on developing his land.
I see. How many people
Our reason for going out there really was to get away from the East.
How many people were living up there when you arrived in 1951?
Let's see. I think Bill Richardson had a place up on the top. I'm not sure whether Tommy White had or not. The Louise Casey, I think, had started a place. And I'm not sure, not absolutely sure, but I think Bill Richardson and Louise Casey, I think, were the only two up there at the time. On the upper, above the Mountain Drive.
Right.
And below the Mountain Drive, I don't think, at that time, 1951, any of the lower part had been developed, except friends of Bobby, the Delaney's. They had started a place. Oh, there was one other place. Just above the Mountain Drive, a French family had started a place, had built a place, the de Malvilles. And when we arrived, they had started it, but they had sold to the Millers. And I think the Millers were there. And that's about it, 1951.
Right.
It had been developed very much. This was before Bill Neely had gone up there, and I think before Frank Robinson had started.
I see.
So there weren't very many places up there. Bobby was, I remember in 46 we were out there, and Bobby was just about to put in an advertisement for selling acres at $2,000 an acre, $50 down, $50 a month.
Oh, wow. That's remarkable.
Can you believe it?
Yes, just barely. Just barely. Tell me about the idea that Bobby Hyde had about starting a community.
Well, he was very interested in making available to returning servicemen, especially those who lean to the artistic side, wanted a place to live that they could afford, and a place where they could be, where they could be free. And of course, he was interested in interesting people. And I think that he found that those who were interested in writing or painting or music were more interesting.
Had he done something like this before?
Bobby?
Yes.
I don't think so. No. During the war, he'd worked in a defense factory. Previous to that, Bobby's done so many things, it's hard to put your finger on it. But I guess previous to that, mostly he'd been a writer.
I see. Now, when did you first meet Bobby Hyde?
Well, personally, I met him for the first time, let's see, I think it was 1945. I had corresponded with him, but I did not meet him until after his daughter and I had been married for 3 or 4 years.
I see,
Because he was in California, and I was in the East,
right.
and my wife and I were married in the
Right. Now, did he select the people that he sold land to very carefully, or I mean, you said he was advertising.
I think
Would he turn people down?
Pardon?
Would he turn people down if he thought they weren't compatible?
Now that I can't answer. I really don't know. I think that he would give them a try, and if they weren't right, they wouldn't last. But I really don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Let's talk about your first home up there. Did you build it yourselves, or did you move into a house that was already...
What happened? Bobby and his older stepson, Oliver Andrews, had started 4 walls, what we call the 4 walls. It was a system for building that Bobby had developed. It was like the Adobe system. But he did it with concrete. He had a couple of steel forms which would make a concrete block which was 2 feet long, I think this is correct, and a foot high and a foot, gee, that doesn't sound right, but I think it is. Anyway, what he would do is, after he had made the footings, he would put this form on the top of the footing, and fill it with concrete, and then it was a fairly dry mix. Then he would lift it off and put it right next to put the steel form next to it, fill another, and simply go around the foundation until he had 1 course.
I see.
And then he would follow that with a 2nd course, and a 3rd course.
Yeah, very efficient. More efficient, really, than making adobe bricks, isn't it?
Well, I think adobe bricks were made in a similar way, and I don't know whether they were cast on. This was a system for casting on blocks rather than buying blocks and then building them by mortaring them up. But he and Oliver had constructed 4 walls. There were doorway openings, there were window openings, and there was no roof. My wife and I bought this structure, and we put a roof on it, and put the windows on it, floors, and the rest.
Did you live in it while you were doing that?
No. When we first went there, let's see, this was in... actually, we went there in 1940... 49. I think it was 19, no, 48. 48. We went out there in the fall of 1948, and we moved into a house that Bobby's 2nd stepson, Joel Andrews, and a friend of his, a house they had built on Coyote Road, on land that Bobby had, I don't know when he bought this. I think it was after the original purchase. Anyway, we moved into that house and rented it, and then we saw the place on Mountain Drive, and eventually bought it. But we didn't. Let's see. Yeah, we started it. We started finishing it in the spring of 1949.
Right.
And we made it more or less livable. And then we moved away for 2 years.
I see. And someone else had the house, or?
My sister and her husband.
I see. What sister is that?
This is the Maurers.
Oh,
Eric
right.
and Nina Maurer.
Right. Now, did you have professional help putting your roof on and putting the floors in, or did you do it all yourself?
I think that we didn't have professional help, but we did have somebody, I think his last name was Page, I've forgotten his first name, but he was think he lived in Hope Ranch, and he needed a job or something like that. So he used it, but he was not a professional carpenter. The instructor was Bobby, and he would come up and he'd say, well, you do this and this, and then he'd walk away and do it.
Then he would do it, right?
And then we would try to do it.
Now at that time, did you have utilities?
Oh yeah, we did wire the house, and we'd have plumbing. Let's see. Oh yeah, the water. The water, that was quite a... Getting the water up there. See, we're above the gravity feed.
Oh.
And I think that, our system was we had a 40-gallon tank that we put on top of the house. And the pump was down the hill a little bit. It was, let's see how to describe where it was. Well, it was between where the Miller house was and our house, which was incidentally 224, which is now 224 East Mountain Drive.
Right.
And you can see it. You can see the way the concrete blocks are made. It's the only one up there that looks like that. Anyway, there was a pump, and it supplied. It went up to Bill Richardson. There was a line going up there, and one to Louise Casey. And the pump was always breaking down. We were out of water.
Oh dear.
3 small children. It was a circus.
Oh, funny.
But it was run by electricity, and that was really no problem.
Yeah. Now, was there a road up there, or did the road?
There was.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I know I sound as though you were out in the middle of the wild.
Well, it was much wilder than it presently is. There was a road up there, essentially where the road now goes, the driveway, but it was adobe.
Oh.
And when it rained, it was just impossible to get up the road.
Oh.
And sometimes we would borrow Bobby's personnel carrier. If we got stuck, either to haul us out or up, but that was a 4-wheel drive vehicle with a very low gear ratio.
Oh, great! Yeah.
It would go almost anywhere. But when it rained, we always groaned because we knew that cars weren't going to be able to get up and down that road.
Right. Did people park their cars down on Mountain Drive?
Yeah, but at that time there weren't very many. There was Bill Richardson, and there was my sister and her husband, and ourselves, and the Millers.
Yeah.
At that time, there were just 4 of us.
Right. Now, did you do
5 of us, I guess. I forgot Louise. Louise Casey was
Louise Casey. Yeah. Right. Were you trying to live off the land in any way? I mean, were you growing your own vegetables and things like that?
No, we didn't do that.
Did other people there at the time, or was that something that came later?
I don't think anybody had a garden. Bill was a fisherman, and he would get fish, lobster, sort of thing. But I don't think any of the others. None of the ones above the Mountain Drive at that time were gardeners. And I don't think, this is 1951, I don't think any of the ones below the Mountain Drive did either. This was before Bobby planted the avocado orchard.
I see. Orchard. Right. Did he have the swimming pool yet at that stage?
I beg your pardon?
The swimming pool.
That was started, I think. That was already in place in I think the wall was, and then I think Bobby did some additional work on it before it was first filled. I think it was first filled not until they adopted the Rodriguez family.
I see. Yeah, that was one of Becky's first memories of the place is going and seeing the swimming pool.
Yeah.
With all the bottles.
And I've forgotten, what was that, 55?
Yeah, just about. I don't remember the date myself but I think it's about that time. She talks about Floppy Hyde's being very much involved with baking and there was a lot of wine making going on. It did seem as though many of the people that she remembers had rather special skills in doing things like spinning and weaving and all that sort of thing. Did that come later?
That was later.
How long did you live there?
Well, we moved away in the November '57.
I see. Uh-huh.
But to Santa Barbara, we didn't move out of the city.
I see. Yeah.
But our contact was obviously not being up there. Our contact was not so great. Bill Neely, of course, was a potter.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I think that Frank did some also.
Yeah. Well, you didn't do things like that.
No, I helped Bobby. I did some surveying with him. I did some building.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't none of the crafts.
When did
I was also trying to write.
Huh?
I was also trying to write.
Oh, yeah, well, that too. We were talking to people who said that there were the sort of wonderful village atmosphere about the place because many of the men, indeed, like you, were trying to write or do things, and they were there during the day as opposed to the usual commuting community. Did you have a no flag that you put up when you didn't want people to come?
I think that was mainly Jack Bogle.
Oh.
And Jack came a little later. I've forgotten when Jack arrived. That was at least the middle or maybe the late 50s. And and of course, I remember a remark that Frank Robinson said. He said, "When I think of people, I think of men."
Ah, that's interesting.
It was a very sexist community.
Isn't that interesting? Oh, well, women. What role did women have then in
Well, they
the
took care of the
community?
babies. They did the cooking. They let's see. Well, of course, Peggy Robinson had a lovely voice and sang, but I don't know. Well, let's see. Professionally, let's see which of them. Gee, I'm really straining. I think they're mainly homemakers. This is the 50s.
The 50s, right. Well, what about the celebrations that we hear about, like Twelfth Night, for example? That seemed like such a wonderful idea with the Bean King.
Yeah,
and
there was a yearly, and of course this was not as early as 1951. That developed a little bit later. A big party to which I think almost all of the people who were building houses up there came, and it was just a lovely party.
It sounds very nice. Well, how did Bobby Burns' birthday start to be celebrated? Was somebody else's birthday too, wasn't it?
I really don't know the answer to that. Let's see, who is the Scot up there? I just don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And I think that became a tradition again after we had moved away.
I see.
That was not one of the earlier ones. The 12th night was one of the first, and of course the wine stop was.
Well, that started early, didn't it?
Fairly early.
That must have been fun. Did you go with them to pick up the grapes and?
One year I did, up to the Kinnaman Ranch. And
tell me about that.
Pardon?
Tell me about the ranch there and
well, I
him.
remember. I think Bill Neely organized that because he was, he made wine, and after he came up and started to build a house, it became a yearly event. And I remember going up there in a big truck, and we just loaded it with boxes of grapes. We picked them and then drove down. I don't know how soon after we'd picked them. Must have been very soon when we put them in the vat and stomped them.
You really stomped them. I mean...
Oh, you get in and you just you walk around and it squishes between your toes.
That sounds lovely.
Well, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I also read about the No Club. The playing, the game, the Japanese game.
Oh, yeah, that was... Bobby started that. You mean Go, G-O?
Go, not no, right.
Yeah, G-O.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I don't know, that was one of the things that Bobby started. There was also a chess group, where, not chess, but Kriegspiel, which is based on chess.
Oh.
It's,
how do you spell that?
Well, it's German for war game.
Oh, Kriegspiel.
Krieg, K-R-I-E-G-S-P-I-E-L.
Great.
Kriegspiel.
Thank you.
And it's played with, it's a kind of blind chess that the opponents don't see each other's moves.
Oh.
And you need a third person with a separate, each of the three persons has his own board and men. And the contestants guess what the other person has moved. The third person, who is called a monitor, keeps track of the real moves.
Uh-huh.
And after each person moves, the monitor will say that either white or black has moved. He will also tell if a move that one attempts to make is possible or not.
Ah.
He might try to sweep the diagonal with a bishop, for example. But if there's something in the way, you won't be able to go all the way.
Mm-hmm. And
he gives a little bit of information. He has to announce when the king is in check. And he also announces when there is a... Do you play chess?
Yes.
He also announces when there's an opportunity for a pawn try. The pawn takes a diagonal.
Uh-huh.
And a person wouldn't know that there is something at the diagonal unless the monitor said. And the monitor says either that you have a try or several tries.
Oh, my. Uh-huh.
You get one chance to guess where one or the
Right.
other might be. And if you miss, then you have to make another move. But it's interesting how much you can infer from the little information you get from the monitor.
Yeah, that sounds like a great game.
Anyway, I think sometimes we had as much as, about six games. That would be 18 people.
Yeah.
And you would rotate. You'd complete a game, and then you would...
you'd go and then challenge someone else.
Yeah, switch off with another combination.
Yeah.
So we did that.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I think the Go was similar, except that it was just two contestants.
What about your children? Did they have a good time growing up there in the?
Well, we were there from 51 till 57. And see, when we went there, that was before our oldest. He was born 46. He was 5 years. I don't think he went to school until the fall, and in fact, I know he didn't, until the fall of 51. And so he went to school. We had three of our kids eventually did go to Coral Springs School. Yeah, I think they had a good time up there. The Millers who were just below us had, let's see, Nico, Alice, and Andrew. Yeah, they had three children. Nico was a little older than, was a lot older than Tim. But they were playmates. Let's see, who else was a playmate? But there were other children that they had to play with. Yeah, it was a great place to play.
Yeah, I gather it was. Yeah, yeah. Were people involved in politics very much at that time?
I laugh because I was very involved.
Aha.
First in, let's see, we arrived in the fall of 51. Let's see. No, the spring of 51. Let's see. Well, I don't know. I got involved in the Stevenson campaign, the 52 Stevenson campaign,
right.
in Democratic politics, obviously. And I had, for one reason, I don't know how it came to be, but I was one of 4 persons of a sort of a, what do we call us? It was a planning committee for the campaign. And after that, I got involved in Americans for Democratic Action, and became deeply involved in politics. In fact, I think I spent more time in politics than I did anything else. Bobby, of course, was always interested in Democratic politics, but he wasn't that involved.
Mm-hmm.
He was always interested, and he loved to talk about it. See, who else up there was... I think I personally had the deepest involvement. And later my sister became very involved.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been on the Central Committee for a number of years, Democratic.
Was it mostly national politics, or were people...
No, only that, so far as I'm concerned, I got into it through national politics, but then there was not only the state legislature level and congressional level, but also the municipal elections, school board elections, the whole gamut.
Did anybody from Mountain Drive serve in the local government when you were there?
Not when I was there. Let's see, did anybody... No, I don't think anybody actually ran for office.
Not even school board or something like that?
No. So far as I can remember, no.
Was the Grapevine being published when you were there?
Well, that was started by the Rodriguez children. And I don't remember whether that started before we moved away or after, but fairly soon in the late 50s. I believe.
Right.
Mountain Drive Grapevine.
Right.
That's what it was called.
There was also a radio station that was, I understand, in the El Paseo building. KRCW, I have the initials, but I'm not sure that's correct.
Oh, that sounds very familiar.
Run by somebody from Mountain Drive.
Was it Johnston?
Yes, it was. Must have been.
Dick Johnston?
Right.
That was later.
That was later.
Yeah, that was after we'd gone away.
What years was that, do you think?
I haven't...
I'm sorry.
I recognize the call numbers. KRCW. And it's no longer extant, I guess.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Well, why don't I ask you 2 questions that have to do with your particular situation. Did you find the community up there, the sort of daily social life and that sort of thing, stimulating to your work, or was it more distracting?
No, I would see neither one. Neither stimulating nor distracting. People left you alone if you were trying to work. I don't remember anybody. I think everybody was trying to be serious about what he or she was doing. And I don't remember any distraction. But I can't think of a way in which I could say that it was stimulating. It was a nice place to live. Interesting people, fun to talk to.
Right. Well, did you become interested at all in any of the other arts while you were up there?
Did I do what?
Did you become interested in any of the graphic arts, for example? I mean, people were, I mean, for yourself.
Well, I could
there were a lot of people who were working in them, and I wondered if it was
Yeah, and of course,
tempting.
At one time, Oliver Andrews was up there,
Uh-huh.
who achieved international reputation as a sculptor.
Right.
I can say that I came to have an understanding and appreciation for the other arts.
You were about to say about the other.
Oliver, at one year, was involved in, and maybe several years involved in creating scenery for the theater, and through that got a number of us involved in a theatrical production. I think it was High Tor.
Oh yes.
And
and where was that done? That was done downtown, right?
that was done at the Libero.
Uh-huh.
Production. I think it must have been sometime in the 50s, 55, 56,
Uh-huh.
57.
Yeah.
And a number of the mountain drivers got involved in that.
Right. Did you do any acting?
A very small part.
Let me ask you about some people that you've mentioned up there, and sort of, if you could describe them for me. I think one of the people who lived there when you came was Bill Richardson. Now, what was he like?
Well, Bill has many sides to him. He's a hunter, fisherman. There's that side to him, and then there's the writer's side. I remember Bill, my first recollection of him, or my first experience with Bill, we had pulled a house trailer across the country in 1951, and we couldn't get it up the hill. The car wasn't strong enough to do that, and we left it parked down on Mountain Drive, waiting for the time when we could get up the hill. And I think that one of his dogs was taking a siesta under the trailer when we got around to pulling it up the hill. And the poor thing didn't get out in time, and I think we ran over one of its legs. It didn't seriously cripple him, but it did it did do some damage.
Yeah.
And I remember that Bill was very upset about that. But when I met him, he was, very understanding. But it was sort of an unfortunate preparation.
An awkward introduction, wasn't it?
Bill at that time, I think, was a little defensive, and but we didn't have any difficulty whatsoever. And of course, I used to see Bill at the Ellerby Writers Group. I think that was every month. I guess it was once a month. We used to meet Bobby's mother's house down on South Sepulveda Street.
Oh, I see.
And Bill used to read his stories, and very graphic and intense and exciting stories they were. Very intense.
I'm not sure I got the name of that. The LB is in initials, L and B.
I'm sorry.
The name of the group.
Oh, Ellerby.
Ellerby.
That was the name of the person. He was a writer. He published all over the place. Paul Ellerby. E-L-L.
Right.
E-R-B-E.
B-E. Great.
And he was somebody that Bobby found, and they got to know one another. And this was an institution for many, many years. Well, at least 15, I think.
Yes. Now, when you moved away from Mountain Drive, you still kept up with things like this.
Oh, sure.
I mean, Did you move far?
We went over to Las Canoas Road.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
It was about, 4.5 miles.
Yeah, certainly not very far. Well, let me see. Someone else you mentioned was Tommy White.
Yeah. Tommy built the house. I think it's still the one that's the highest at the upper part of the original 50-acre tract that Bobby bought.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, what's his connection? I think he's not no blood relation to Bobby, but through marriage. Let me see. Tommy White's father was a brother of the man who married a sister of somebody Bobby had married.
Oh.
Bobby's second wife.
I see. Now he was married, what, 3 times?
Yes.
Bobby White was. And, all right, fine. I think I have other sources of sort of getting people squared away. How many children were there in all?
Well, Bobby's first wife died shortly after she gave birth to my wife.
I see.
Susie.
Uh-huh.
Then Bobby married Lydia and had 3 children.
I see. And are those the Andrews?
No. Andrews were Floppy's children.
Oh, I see.
Before Bobby and Floppy married, Floppy had 2 children by another man.
I see.
And the older was Oliver,
Uh-huh.
the younger was Joel.
Right. Well, I'm going to do a family tree for myself and get them squared away one of these days.
It's helpful.
It is, indeed. Were you there, not living there, but were you in the area at the time of the Coyote Fire?
Oh, yes. That was dreadful.
Now, you weren't,
We were not living there.
You were not living there.
That was in
7 or...
No, 64, I think.
64. Yeah.
That was a coyote.
Yeah, did you go up there?
No, we didn't go back up there. My sister was living up there
Uh-huh.
at the time. And, let's see, it burned, of course, Bill Richardson's house.
Uh-huh.
Let's see what other houses burned down. Gee, I don't remember. I think Bill's was the only one that, above the mountain drive,
Uh-huh.
was destroyed.
Well, what about the Hyde's house?
Oh, of course, the Hyde's house was, and that had to be rebuilt.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. What was that like, the house before the fire?
Well, it was, let's see. Let's see, when we were first there, when we got there the first time, I can't remember if this was 48 or, I think it was not, in 48, it was just the kitchen and the living room. And there was a little breezeway and then a shed which contained the bathroom. And, let's see. They kept the a couple of ice boxes,
Uh-huh.
refrigerators.
Right.
I think that was all that was there. Then between 49 and when we got back there in 51, or shortly thereafter, they built a wing that was an extension of where the shed over the bathroom and the refrigerator was. It was an L shape that added on 2 rooms and then a large space went off at an angle.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there, I beg your pardon. In the original structure, there was also an L off the living room, but it wasn't enclosed. There was a roof and walls,
Uh-huh.
but it was not enclosed. The walls on two sides, I think,
I see.
not on the third.
Uh-huh.
So
It was an adobe structure.
Pardon?
It was an adobe structure.
Well, the original was the original living room and the kitchen and the structure off the living room was all adobe, but it wasn't finished. It wasn't finished, and then when it was finished with concrete blocks, cast-on blocks,
Cast-on.
but not so massive as the ones in our house.
Mm. Yeah. I see. Have you lived, how long did you stay in Santa Barbara?
Until 74.
Till 74. And you've come back periodically?
For a couple of weeks at a time.
Tell me, what are the biggest changes that have taken place since you first saw Mountain Drive and
of course, the
lived
number
there?
of houses up there.
Uh-huh.
And of course, as time has gone on and the property values have increased, the more substantial building that is going on in the area. I don't know. My impression is that there's no longer that sense of community that there was back in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of the people are still there, but my impression, and this is only an impression from a very limited encounter, is that there isn't that the same same community feeling.
I see. Did the people who lived there feel that they were participating in an experiment in an alternative lifestyle, or, I mean, that sort of thing that was talked about in the 60s?
I don't think it was self-conscious.
It wasn't?
I don't think it was self-conscious.
Uh-huh.
I think it just happened. Again, that's my impression.
Uh-huh. Did people take a certain amount of pride in the fact that they lived on Mountain Drive? And
they were mountain drivers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did. I think it was it gave them some identity that gave them a special feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether this was true of everyone, yeah, I think to a degree it was. To different people to a different extent.
Well, when people gave parties, was it sort of a general invitation for all the neighbors to?
Originally, I think there was, but as time went on, I think it was more selective.
Well, do you think that Mountain Drive as a community had any effect on Santa Barbara? I mean, well.
Gee, that's
it's a hard question, isn't it?
Hard to say. It certainly. I think it was certainly formative for the people who lived there. Certainly formative in that sense.
In what way? In what way did it?
Well, I would say in the way people feel about themselves, and I think it's something that most people look back on as a very positive influence in their lives. We're talking about a very ineffable thing.
Right. I see that. But did people talk about that
I think
when you were there? They were say, "Gee, it's great we live here because," and.
Well, I don't think it was said so quite so blatantly as that.
Uh-huh.
I do think that there was an awareness on the part of a number of people in Santa Barbara that there was this community up there, and it was sort of special. When I can't give you specifics, but every now and then one runs into people who say, "Oh, well, you're part of that community, were you?" There was an awareness of it.
Yeah. Well, certainly when the pot wars were celebrated, there were a lot of people from the community, weren't there? I mean, from the larger the larger Santa Barbara community came up.
And of course, the word did get around. Friends of the people who lived there, and yeah, I think it did become kind of an institution.
Uh-huh.
One of the things I thought of that you might look up is a copy, I think a Sunday issue of the News Press, when Don Freeman did we did some drawings for the bookmobile. That was sort of an institution. The bookmobile, I don't know whether it was Saturday. I think it was Saturday that it went up there.
Oh, really?
And somebody who might give you some more information, remember better than I, would be Burdette Dunn, who used to run the bookmobile.
Uh-huh.
Is Burdette Dunn one of your...
Yes, he's on our list. Uh-huh. I hope I'll be able to get him.
Well, he would be able to tell you more about the bookmobile. But I remember there was a nice spread about the bookmobile ritual.
Uh-huh.
And I remember there was a nice, Don Freeman did a nice drawing, a cartoon drawing of the event.
Uh-huh. Oh, that sounds interesting. I'll look that up. I haven't found that one. Were people particularly interested in, I'm getting back to children again, were people sort of especially interested in introducing their children to, Santa Barbara's cultural events, or taking them to the museum? And, the bookmobile business reminded me. Was that a rather important part of children's growing up?
I'm thinking that I really don't know. I think that I'm guessing that the attitude was rather that the quality of life on the mountain was one that was not contaminated by the worst aspects of the contemporary culture. But that I'm sort of guessing.
Oh, well, that just about finishes the topics I did want to discuss with you. And now I'll ask you the question: are there some things I should have asked you that you wish I'd asked you that I didn't get around to?
Well, I jotted down on a piece of paper a few little notes.
Good.
One year after a windstorm, I remember that it was just at the time when the olive trees on Olive Street were, they reached their maturity. Sort of, millions and millions of olives in the gutters and the sidewalks. So I remember Bobby had us all go down and sweep them up, and we carried them back to Mountain Drive, and we crushed them, and I don't know how many gallons of olive oil we got out of that pressing, but it was, must have been at least a ton of olives that we swept up from Olive Street. And I remember we couldn't use up the olive oil fast enough, and some of it got rancid. But that was one of Bobby's projects. I remember so far as I know, we only did that once. Another thing that might interest you is that one year Merv Lane organized a Christmas carol group. And we got together, I think for a couple of months before Christmas, and trained and sang, developed not only the traditional carols, but some more interesting carols. And that Christmas time, I guess Christmas Eve, we went around and caroled.
Uh-huh. Where did you go?
Oh, just on the mountain.
Uh-huh.
Various places. I don't think we went any other places. Let's see. And then I mentioned how awful it was when it rained. I remember one Christmas, it really came down buckets, and it shorted out the electricity in the house that was just above the mailboxes, and it shorted out the electricity all over at least the upper part.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, what else?
How long did that last?
Well, I think it was a couple of, I think it was probably almost 24 hours before we got that one straightened out. And the other, in relation to rain, the one, I don't know how many years the family lived there in this house just above the mailboxes. But the man never slept in the house. He always slept in his Jeep.
Oh.
And I'd forgotten that maybe Frank Robbins remember the name of him because he did some electrician work for Frank.
Uh-huh.
But
why did he sleep in his Jeep?
Don't ask me. Sort of people that we got up there. He was a very nice person, incidentally. Very agreeable. I mean, nothing strange. He just slept in his Jeep.
Well, maybe he's afraid of getting caught in the Adobe mire.
I don't know. Any idea?
Were you? There were hot springs, not in Mountain Drive, but somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I understand that some people from Mountain Drive were very instrumental in getting them sort of cleaned up and usable again.
Oh, no, that's something I didn't know about. I do know that one year we did, I don't know if it was Bobby's truck, I think it was, a big flatbed, and got some straw, and we went up to the hot springs for a swim in the hot springs in one moonlit night.
Oh, how nice. Yeah. Was the hot tub invented in Mountain Drive?
Oh, I don't think so.
People did have them, though.
Not hot tubs. Bobby used to have a huge wine, I don't know if it was a wine vat, but it was a big redwood tub. It was about, maybe 16 feet across, that he used to put water in for about 3 or 4 feet. This was before he got the swimming pool in operation.
Uh-huh.
And parties would end up with everybody going swimming.
That's neat.
Although you couldn't swim because there was only 3 feet of water.
Well, you could get wet.
Yeah, you get wet.
Yeah.
You could splash around.
Yeah, that's nice.
But no, I don't think there was ever a hot tub up there.
Oh.
If he thought of it, he would have built one.
Yes. Did you ever go with Bobby Hyde on those camping trips?
No, I did not myself.
Uh-huh.
I've heard tell of them. It was very austere.
Exactly. My goodness.
A slab of bacon, some potatoes, and that was about it for food.
My goodness. Oh. Are there any other stories that you would like to tell us?
Let me see. I can't think of any other goodies. There was some, it was a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
It was hard keeping warm. I don't know, we had fireplaces, but wood was scarce. We we got a couple of kerosene heaters, the old Perfection burners, and of course, they're extremely dangerous because you start them and you think when they start, the flame isn't very big, but if you go away and leave them, the combustion gets more and more efficient, and then the flame rises. And if it's not knocked over, you can get a lot of soot in your house. But of course, with children, there's always a chance of overturning them. And luckily, nobody had any accidents.
Yeah, but it wasn't the sort of thing you would leave on all night.
Oh no, not after you went to bed.
Yeah.
But it was cold up there.
Cold and muddy.
Cold.
I understand from
and miserable.
From somebody that part of the fashion of wearing boots, she thought came from Mountain Drive, because any sensible person in the rainy season wouldn't go into town except with a pair of boots in order to be able to get home again.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, do you remember Tarantula Day?
No, I remember tarantulas, but I don't remember any Tarantula Day. Well, you would see them. Yeah. If what they meant is that you would see them walking up Coyote Road.
Goodness.
At a certain time of year, you'd run across tarantulas.
Uh-huh.
And you wouldn't see very many, but now and then you might see one.
Uh-huh.
A certain time of year, you might see that.
Isn't that interesting? It was supposed to have something to do with telling how much rain there was going to be.
Gee.
And I don't know. I think that was in one of the Grapevine articles that we got all the. But anyway, listen, this has been very kind of you. I'm dying to hear this tape and see if we come out all right. It's the first time I've used this gadget, and I did test it a bit before I did. But this has been very kind of you, and I hope you'll let us know if you're going to be in Santa Barbara, and maybe we can talk a little more.
Sure.